is going to happen when the Pirates are making a run at the next playoff berth or making a run at their next World Series win. And the question for me, and the question for a lot of Pirates fans, is what do you do with Josh Bell? Last year, he hit 37 home runs, drove in almost 120, and he didn't even play in September. So in a full season, that looks like 40 home runs, 130 driven in. But then the question becomes, how is Josh Bell going to answer the big questions about piling on and having a repeat good season in 2020? And obviously 2020 being a 60-game season, you're not going to see exact comparisons. But, through 60 games in 2019, Josh Bell had a .330 average, 18 home runs, and 54 RBIs. I think he can do something comparable to that in 2020. And when you think about what it is going to take for the Pirates to be a competitive team, potentially a wild card team in 2020, when you think about that and the prospects of that, what I believe it's going to take is Josh Bell having an absolutely monster season, similar to what we saw him do through 60 games in 2019. But the offense really isn't the biggest question mark for the Pirates in 2020. It's the pitching. It is the pitching. And I would argue that it's the rotation more so than the bullpen. We'll get into sort of what's going on with the bullpen a little bit later in the show. But with the rotation, where we see Joe Musgrove, Trevor Williams, Mitch Keller, Derek Holland, and we're probably going to see a mix of Stephen Brault and Chad Cole in that fifth spot in the rotation. We'll see some sort of combo of the two. I think Joe Musgrove is going to do just fine in 2020. He will be fine. What I think is very important, though, are two key cogs in this rotation and the question and the quest for the Pirates being a competitive baseball team in 2020. For them not only being a 500 team, but potentially a wildcard playoff team. I think a lot of that rests on Trevor Williams getting back to his pre-injury self of 2019 and really sort of the second half of 2018 when he was just one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And really in his career, except after the injury last year after San Diego, he had been one of the best, most consistent pitchers in all of baseball since the time he made his first start. Now, the other big component of this 2020 team is going to be Mitch Keller and what he can do. Mitch Keller's stats, if you look at it in 2019, they don't look good. But if you look at the underlying stats, the indicators that are going to show what he is going to do in 2020, you see him having an ERA in the low threes. That's what the projections and what the models are showing. And if he can do that, and you have the top three guys of Musgrove, who's great in his own right. You have Williams getting back to his 2018 second half self. You have Keller taking a step forward to become the team's ace. Derek Holland is going to be a guy that gives you the 11-12 starts. He's going to eat innings. He's not going to be anything special, but he's going to do his job. And then some combination of Stephen Brault and Chad Cole in the fifth spot. And you're going to be talking about a rotation that is going to be able to compete on a night in and night out basis. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take Josh Bell. It's going to take the rotation and the offense coming together as one. Now, when we talk about 2021, because I think 2020 and 2021 are completely different case studies. How to predict and how we see what they're going to do moving forward. I think 2020 they could be a wildcard team legitimately be a 500 team, if not better. 2021, though, I don't really see it. I see 2022 as the year that the window of opportunity is going to open for them to compete and win a division moving forward. Win a World Series moving forward. That starts in 2022. And when we talk about Alexander Mojica and guys like that, we see, okay, is Josh Bell going to be around long term? What's going to go on there? Mojica could be the guy that steps in 2023 when they could really be on a roll, right? And Josh Bell is supposed to be a free agent in 2023. That's when Mojica could step in and take over at first base right when they're in that window of opportunity. And that is what excites me about Alexander Mojica and the future of this Pittsburgh Pirates team and what they have assembled, what Ben Cherington has assembled in his very little time in Pittsburgh with this farm system. It's been very impressive. In the early 2010s, catcher was a revolving door for the Pittsburgh Pirates. One of the players to see time behind the dish was Jason Jaramillo, who has since been forgotten by many Pirates fans. On December 10th, 2008, the Pittsburgh Pirates moved on from the player that, at one time, looked like the team's long-term answer at catcher. On this day, the team traded Ronnie Paulino to the Philadelphia Phillies. In return, the Pittsburgh Pirates received another catcher, Jason Jaramillo. Jaramillo would make his MLB debut with the Pittsburgh Pirates on April 9th, 2009. This would start a 3-year run for Jaramillo with the Pirates. These 3 seasons would also prove to be the only ones he would spend at the MLB level. In his 3 MLB seasons, again, all with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Jaramillo hit for a .235 average, .295 on base, and a .327 slugging, and a 66 WRC plus in 366 plate appearances across 119 games. He owned a negative F4 in each of these 3 seasons, finishing with a career F4 of negative 1.8. In addition to struggling offensively, Jaramillo also struggled defensively. He posted a negative D-WAR in each of his 3 seasons, finishing with a negative 7.5 D-WAR. He also had a negative defensive run saved each season of his MLB career, posting a negative 6 DRS in total. In 2011, Jaramillo helped the Pirates make history. He was one of a franchise record 8 catchers the Pirates used that season. Jaramillo was joined by Ryan Doumit, Michael McHenry, Chris Snyder, Eric Fryer, Wyatt Torregas, Matt Pagnozzi, and Dusty Brown behind the dish that season for the Pirates. The Pirates designated Jaramillo for assignment on December 7th, 2011. Later that offseason, he would sign a minor league free agent contract with the Chicago Cubs. After being released by the Cubs in March 2012, Jaramillo would sign with the Milwaukee Brewers. He played in the minors for the Brewers and the Oakland Athletics in 2012, and the Seattle Mariners and Houston Astros in 2013 before hanging up the cleats. So, I thought I'd bring back the Forgotten Pirate segment, a pretty popular segment that we've done in the past on the show, and we're still, we're getting ready for the game tonight against the Indians at 7:05, the first professional sports game that will be live in the United States since March 12th, and the first time we'll see the Pirates play since March 12th. And as we're gearing up for that, we're gearing up for opening day on Friday, but I thought it'd be worth my time, worth the segment, to dive into the Jason Jaramillo from the early 2010s. And, with that franchise record of catchers in 2011, again, the aforementioned catcher plus Ryan Doumit, Michael McHenry, Chris Snyder, Eric Fryer, Wyatt Torregas, Matt Pagnozzi, and Dusty Brown. Now, I think that would be a good trivia question. Name the 8 catchers that the Pirates used in the 2011 season. I mean, before doing research for this show, I could give you Doumit, I could give you McHenry, maybe Snyder and Fryer, but definitely not Torregas, Pagnozzi, and Dusty Brown. And honestly, Jason Jaramillo, and when I do these Forgotten Pirates segments, I try to pick a player that was relevant in the recent past. And, we do a little dive in, and I try to make some cool tidbits in there too, like that catcher record in 2011. And he was actually here for somewhat of a time. And really, the Pirates' catching situation in terms of catching prospects, it has just been frustrating, whether it be Jaramillo or Tony Sanchez or Elias Diaz. I mean, even a guy like Reese McGuire, who we traded to the Blue Jays when we shipped off Francisco Liriano in return for Drew Hutchison and that salary dump. Any of those trades and any of those prospects, they've all sort of just fizzled out. It's been frustrating. And I wouldn't consider Jacob Stallings a catching prospect. I mean, he's in his age 30 season. And Jacob Stallings is a very good catcher, and I would honestly classify him, if he can put it all together this year, as a top 10 catcher in baseball. He's very good defensively. He hits enough. He has sneaky pop. He's a leader. The pitchers love pitching to him. And I think Jacob Stallings could man the Pirates' catching spot for years to come. I really do believe that. And I still also believe that Ben Cherington needs to go out and acquire a young catcher because there's just nobody in the system. And we've talked about that at length of how just barren the Pirates' catching prospect landscape is. And when we talk about the fact that this farm system is one of the best in baseball, what you want to see and what you'd like to see is at least a catcher in the top 30 prospects, somebody that can catch a little bit. And we talked about the undrafted free agent signing from Chapman University, and that was sort of for Nick Garcia to help him along. But it's still just a frustrating idea to think is we have Jacob Stallings, we have Luke Maile, we have John Ryan Murphy, we have Andrew Susac. Those are the 4 catchers that could, play in the major leagues today. They definitely could. And Stallings and Maile are going to be the guys. And an interesting note that I want to jump in here, because I don't think I planned it out actually, is that JT Riddle is supposed to be a utility guy for the Pirates this season. He hasn't been at PNC Park for the last several days, and many are suspecting that he could have coronavirus. And it's an interesting dilemma that potentially losing JT Riddle, and the reason why I bring this up with the catchers is because you lose Riddle, it's sort of, there's really only 2 guys that I believe could even replace JT Riddle as a bench spot, and the 2 guys I can think of are John Ryan Murphy and Jason Martin. And Martin, he is in Altoona right now training with the taxi squad, but he is expected to be in Pittsburgh tonight with the loss of Polanco. So I would honestly say John Ryan Murphy, they carry a 3rd catcher, but both Martin and Murphy are one-dimensional guys. And, the coronavirus has really started to hurt the Pirates, and we'll talk about a little bit more of the toll it's taken on the bullpen as well. And it just lends credence to the frustration of being a Pirates fan, 2019 and this year, and really for a long time now. It's just that it feels like we just can't have nice things. It's like, we see, okay, Polanco's supposed to have a good bounce back season. He gets diagnosed with coronavirus, and the Pirates are going to have to get creative in right field and how to fill that void. Do they go Heredia, Brito, outside the box to Frazier, even Cole Tucker in right field? And it just tests the depth and the versatility of a lot of players. And Derek Shelton is going to be having his first managerial season in a season, hopefully unlike anything we will ever see again. I mean, in the long history of baseball, dating back to the 1870s, we have never seen anything like this. Ever. Been through 2 world wars. The Spanish flu pandemic after World War I in 1919. War after war, depression after depression. Even a global pandemic in 1919 that's far more deadly than the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, baseball has gone on, but 2020 has been different. And it's going to be interesting to see how the players and the teams step up to the plate and what they do. I mean, just so many strange things. And I know the Pirates are still holding out hope that the Allegheny County Department of Health and Human Services will allow fans back into PNC Park at some point this year. It's obviously not going to be for the home opener, but just the strangeness and the oddities of last night listening to the piped-in crowd noise. And I've watched a little bit of MLS, the MLS's back tournament, and I hear it a little bit, and it's a little bit less weird with MLS because you can't really see the fans even if there were fans there. With baseball, it's just like, it's just strange, and the crowd noise that they're piping in, it's just like, how is that going to take a toll on players, on teams, losing that home field advantage, losing potentially that adrenaline rush of 50,000 people, 30,000 people, cheering you on or booing you or whatever it may be? How is that going to affect teams? How is that going to affect players? It's an interesting thought and an interesting discussion. that we'll have as the season goes on here.